Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Market Mindset. It's Andrew, and pleased to catch up with Corey Diaz, who's the CEO over at Anfield Energy. I can't say it enough, and don't need to remind people it's a chaotic market. But that being said, it's a good space to be in energy, but also especially in uranium. And of course, everyone's had a bit of a pullback, but you've got some good news today, and we're going to chat about the macro environment and some, kind of macro energy / nuclear uranium market. Corey, how are you? Good to catch up with you.
I'm well, thanks, and thanks for having me on again. Things have been pretty hectic, but they've slowed down a little bit. So, we're happy to, manage to close the transaction as you alluded to. So we're in a good space right now.
Before we jump into any other Uranium Energy Corp news, maybe walk us through that transaction again, just so people kind of get the highlights of it again.
Sure. We announced back in April that we were looking to address, at least one glaring issue that we had related to our balance sheet, and that was an $18 million, of debt obligations to Uranium One, which was subsequently acquired by UEC. Late last year. It's been an issue for us for a number of years. That was obviously tied to transactions we completed with Uranium One, but it also, put us in a position where, there was a bit of a debt overhang on the stock. People are concerned about, where's the upside in the story if that debt's not addressed. And so, we managed to negotiate with UEC to find a path forward to address the debt. And while doing that, we also had further conversations with UEC. Whereby, we thought we could try to, adjust our portfolio to focus on conventional assets versus ISR assets. So, it's a twofold transaction, which addressed both the debt and our portfolio balance. And, we've come out the other end, looking much better than we did going into it.
And they become a key shareholder in your projects as well. So it's good to have someone like that on your side who's got a vested interest in your success.
Absolutely. Like we're very lucky to have a company like UEC, participating in our company now, looking at our asset portfolio and finding things of interest to it. And, us doing the same with UEC's portfolio and saying that there's something there that would make sense within our portfolio. So, it was mutually beneficial in terms of the asset swap. The debt was a great opportunity for us to remove that overhang. And at the same time, UEC becomes a 15% shareholder in the company. So lots of good things and positive things going forward. We've got, a de facto shareholder and cheerleader of Anfield, through UEC. We've got a focus a renewed focus on the sheetering mill. All of our assets, can go through that mill at this point from conventional uranium basis. And, we've got a clear path forward as to what we want to do to get to the point of production.
It can't be said enough that mill is so critical, because I know I get to talk to a lot of different explorers in the uranium space, but for you guys to be sitting and having a mill that can process, that is a huge advantage.
It is, and obviously as the market continues to get stronger, you've got the U.S. administration looking for ways to avoid dependence on outside forces. It certainly, brings into sharp focus the opportunities tied to, having some kind of processing available in the domestic market. So, as we've had these assets and we've been shouting from the rooftops for years about how valuable that mill is, I think now the market's really starting to understand that there is some real value here.
Yeah, and I mean, before we just roll up Uranium Energy Corp, they were in the news today as well, because they just picked up UEX Corporation. So they're very busy, but that's good to see in this space. The transactions, the accumulation, the amalgamation of some of these It shows that it's still frothy, even though there's a pullback in the market. You can see that there's a lot of indicators that are very optimistic.
Absolutely. I think it's, UEC's out there at the forefront looking for ways to, build a portfolio within North America that could be one of the strongest in the marketplace. So, it was a surprise, I think, to most people in the market that a transaction took place, especially so quickly on the heels of, our, in comparison, minor transaction. But at the same time, it does show that there is a tendency to consolidation in this market. And I think that it's, one of the first that we've seen recently, but certainly won't be the last. I think that there'll be a number of other companies looking to, kick the tires on competitors or peers and look for ways to kind of really grow critical mass in order to be a dominant player in the market, the upcoming strong uranium market.
I think it ties in well with, as you were talking about, like the Biden administration. I mean, everyone knows we're going through a massive shift in energy, and they are more than open to consider nuclear, whereas in the past they weren't. So there's that's a big catalyst for change. Never mind the fact that there's a catalyst for change in energy. And, hopefully we're going to see some leadership to go, let's give us a real pathway, because, we said it enough. You've said it enough. If you're going to talk about clean energy, you're talking nuclear, you're talking uranium. And if we can get that could really open up this sector very quickly.
Absolutely. Look, I think, the first catalyst we saw was a couple of years ago when there was talk of creating a kind of a domestic uranium reserve in the U.S. That was kind of the start of the green energy revolution, or discussions around, how do we find a way to, promote and grow a green energy base in the U.S. So that was the first step. That was obviously, pushed forward by the Biden administration to really look at, getting that reserve funded. And then obviously more recently, the Biden administration talking about, $6 billion being put aside to help fledgling reactors in the U.S. To preserve that energy, because, it's a significant part of the clean energy mix, to kind of make sure those reactors can stay in service. Because they recognize how important it is to have those reactors as part of that clean energy mix. And then we've recently seen that the Biden administration is talking about $4.3 billion being put towards, nuclear enrichment or uranium enrichment services, in order to kind of wean off the dependence of materials flowing in through places like Russia. So, it's an interesting kind of, continuous building onto of a recognition that, the supply demand imbalance, is pretty stark and risky, especially geopolitically. And so now, as we look at, the opportunity on the kind of conversion enrichment side of the business, clearly, in order to convert and enrich, you need the actual uranium material, which means that there's going to be a giant focus on getting material out of domestic grounds in order to, flow through, those other two stages of moving towards nuclear power. And so from our perspective, we're seeing all these things which are very positive in the sector. I think, we were seeing obviously an uptick in the uranium price. It had a bit of a pullback, but it's once again back over $50. So I think that, the sustained price, 50 probably might be the base, and certainly we'll see some further growth going forward. But I think all these things are just positive for the sector. And it's, you look at those things individually or collectively, I think that the market understands that, nuclear is not going away, and it's going to, become a relatively dominant part of the market going forward.
Now, you can kind of tell me where this is at, but in being nimble and having the mill, how fast could you? I mean, you'd have to put some money into the mill, I'm guessing, to kind of get it up to speed, but you would be able to take product in there in a fairly fast manner if they really wanted to ramp up, if there was a need. We
could. I mean, right now, it's a regulated industry, right? So there's certainly steps that you need to take in order to, push things forward in terms of refurbishing the mill. We're working with the state of Utah right now to move through that process. We also have to get the mines up and running and ready for production. I think that'll be a quicker process than the mill side.
Okay.
But that said, it's certainly, within 2 to 3 years, we should be in a position to be, up and running. So, And from a timing perspective, that's a relatively quick time frame.
Yes.
When it comes to mining and milling, or at least putting a facility, into play. So, we're very optimistic that we're going to have, that facility ready for the acceptance of material within that, 24 to 36 month time frame.
Excellent. So those are, to a generalist investor, that's the super long term. But as we know in this sector, that isn't. That's very fast. What are some things in the meantime, if someone's kind of saying, okay, what should I be looking for, end of summer or fall? What should I be kind of looking at that to see from updates or news or anything that you can kind of highlight or mention?
Well, look, I think from our perspective, obviously the mill work's taking place in the background. We're still moving forward on the mining side. So we've obviously just acquired a large mine from UEC, and we'll certainly be doing some work on that property, Slick Rock. Slick Rock has a PEA on it already, in UEC's name, and certainly we'll look to replicate that work down the road. I think at the same time, we may look to update our Velvet Wood project. We have a PEA on that project, but we didn't include any of the vanadium related to the asset.
Okay, yes.
Mass production there of both uranium and vanadium, but our PEA only addresses the uranium side. So, we probably want to start including some of the vanadium because that's an important part of the story moving forward. And finally, at West Slope, we did put out a resource on 4 of the 9 projects there. We may look to add economics to those 4 projects in order to create, kind of PEAs at each of the projects themselves. So, we'll have an understanding as to, a pipeline of projects that could go through the mill once it's up and ready to produce. So
excellent. Well, it's lots of news. And it's a challenging market. We all see that. And there's lots of chaos around in the world, but I find in great moments of change, there's huge opportunity. And those that are paying attention to this shift in energy and looking at it realistically knows that we have to have our own supply within North America. You guys are based in the US, which is even better because the US is going to be looking for US supply and US mills. It's looking very optimistic, short and long term for your sector. It hasn't been as hit as the other ones. And it looks like there's good milestones being met there.
I agree. Look, we've had a bit of a pullback in our sector, but I think a lot of people have been taking profits because there was such a big run up over the past 12 months or so. So I think that going forward, I think that people are going to understand the fundamentals and start to really kind of separate the wheat from the chaff and say who can actually contribute to the Biden administration's needs going forward, and certainly those companies should get more attention. And we hope that we're part of that mix, and we certainly think we've got the portfolio to be part of that mix.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Corey, so much for joining us and giving us this update and the success that you've had so far. And we look forward to catching up to see any developments and any kind of developments that come up in the sector.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Take care, you too.